But yeah, mate, welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks a lot. My pleasure. Cheers for asking me.
No worries. So, just to kick us off, Dave, I mean, could you just give us an overview of your background and just sort of take us through your journey up until this point, like, why you got into copywriting and your career journey?
Yeah, sure. So I suppose I got into it really, really early on. I loved words from like very early as a young kid. I was probably about 6 when my dad started playing Scrabble with me, and I was just like,
Right.
wow, I can make anything here. This is, up until then, most games had been, Ludo and stuff like that, very formulaic with a start and a finish, whereas Scrabble, it was different every time. And I was like, wow, like even at that young age, probably, wasn't thinking intellectually or anything at the time, but I remember loving the fact that every new game could kind of turn out new. So yeah, I was hooked really from that young age. And then I really started, I suppose, English in school. The teachers on parents even and stuff, the teachers would be telling me, Mum, I'd be like 10 and he'd say he's got a reading age of like 24 because I was just mopping up all sorts of whatever books I could kind of get hold of. So still kind of just kids books and stuff, all the Roald Dahls and Beatrix Potter at that age, but just loved it. And my mind just went into this like a total other dimension when I was kind of visualizing stuff, as kids' minds probably do. But I kind of knew early on that was kind of what I loved, the the writing side. Certainly the reading, but then that evolved into the writing side. And yeah, I just loved it all the way through school, really. So I got to the age of like 15, 16, and you do a work experience. So I did it on my local newspaper as a reporter for a couple of weeks, and again, I was just like in my element. It was like only really you like local as exciting as local news can get, really. Like there was a new bus depot, and I was like doing vox pops, interviewing people, and never went to court or anything like that, but got my name in the paper, and at 15, for me, that was like a big deal. So
Wow.
yeah, I absolutely loved that. So that was the yeah, that was the yeah, I had the bug, I suppose, at that age. So that's what I did at uni. I did a journalism degree at uni. So that was where I really first studied or learned. It was quite vocational. I learned how to write professionally, I suppose. So I learned how to write, news articles, features, sports articles, that type of stuff. I
I was
really
going to say, so
learned
so in like school, did you have a lot of guidance? Like, did anyone take you under their wing and realize that you had like a natural knack for this, or were you just like just turning up to English, smashing it out of the park, and then just getting good grades?
Yeah, I was always the teachers always knew that I was kind of one of the best in the class, and certainly got good grades for my GCSEs and A levels for English. So that was kind of that went hand in hand with that, really. But no, there was no like special treatment or anything. There was no, I don't think I was treated any different than anybody else. I suppose there was other decent writers there. There was other, you know, I did English language for A level. I didn't do the literature side, which is more heavily on reading. I was more keen on the writing at that stage, even like writing short stories and little poems and stuff, just in my spare time. And like mock newspaper articles of like the goings on in the sixth form block. We used to pin them up after like a night out or a weekend. We'd have all gone to a party. We'd do like mock newspaper articles of whatever went on. So there was me and a couple of other people who like that we were in our element doing that stuff. So yeah, very much the writing side. But yeah, nothing too much really. I was kind of determined in my own head that journalism was what I wanted to do, and you do the careers advice sessions, and they were like, "Oh, so what do you like doing?" I was like, "Oh, I quite like writing, certainly writing more than reading at that stage." I'm quite inquisitive, like asking questions and stuff, and it was always like, "Oh, do journalism." It's like it was obvious. So that's what I did really, and had these big grand ideas of being like, an investigative reporter, like um, Roger Cook back in the day. But I suppose it's more who does that now, more like Louis Theroux, going and interviewing people and investigating kind of weird stuff and criminals and all of that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's
Did
yeah, that's how it really started off.
Did you have any like inspirations during like your younger years? Then, like, I don't know if you had any movies or like Louis Theroux, for example, TV series that really like fan the flames, I suppose.
Not so much for the writing, no. I was a huge comedy fan growing up. I remember my mum. She was always worked as a like a care assistant in a nursing home, and one night, where she'd work nights was a Thursday. She'd do like a 12-hour shift, and that night, me and my dad would like Thursday night was like the boss comedy night on BBC and Channel 4 and stuff. So I remember me and my dad would like we'd look forward to that night. It was just like, yeah, just me and him. Like obviously my dad said before got me into Scrabble. He loves all the same comedy that I love as well. Probably, it's probably a coincidence that everything he kind of introduced me to, I kind of loved. I don't know if it's probably hereditary, isn't it? You probably laugh at the
Yeah,
same stuff your parents do. But yeah, I remember like back then it was like Harry Enfield and the Fast Show, and all of those kind of really funny comedies from like the kind of late mid to late 90s, which I was just kind of hooked on. And then after that, it went to the likes of The Office and Alan Partridge and things like that, which were all things that I loved and stuff that I still kind of use today within some of my writing. It's heavily influenced by kind of comedy and the different styles of the type of stuff that I loved back then. So I'd say they were my biggest influences, yeah, rather than any other kind of writers or reporters or anybody like that. Yeah.
yeah. It's a shame actually that in a way, because with like streaming services nowadays, you have everything at your fingertips. But when I was growing up, I'm a little bit younger than you, but for me it was I used to look forward to the Channel 4. I think it was Friday night comedy on Channel 4, and that was around the IT Crowd, Peep Show, and there was something else. It was IT Crowd, Peep Show, and Shameless. That was it. And it's a shame really that's not really a thing anymore, is it? Like the whole everyone gets around the TV on an evening, which I think is quite sad, really.
Yeah, it's completely gone, hasn't it? We're in a non-linear kind of world now, aren't we? Everything's just on demand whenever you want to kind of watch it. So yeah, I think it is quite sad. It was certainly a time that I remember now. Looking back, I was like Thursday nights were the night where me and my dad would just be pissing ourselves all night long. It was just like look forward to it so much. And yeah, there's none of that anymore. We're kind of spoiled for choice, aren't we? Yeah, I'm sure you're the same.
Yeah,
Spend the
we
first
are.
half an hour looking for something to watch on Netflix and Amazon Prime or whatever. And I'm just like, does my head in sometimes. I'm just like stick a film on. I'm not really bothered.
Yeah, I'm the worst for that. You only have to ask my fiance or my friend, my old flatmate. I used to drive him nuts because we'd go out. We'd have this little routine where we'd go out and get some food or order a takeaway, and we'd pick something. But because I was so spoiled for choice, I can never decide. And then I'm a reviews person, so I'll go through like Rotten Tomatoes, and then I'll work out the best aggregated score. And then by the time we've done that, it's 45 minutes in. You could have watched a whole episode or
Yeah,
something. So it is.
yeah,
I do sort of miss the days, to be honest, where everyone. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, really, was it? But that when you've got that event, I suppose. And I think you put it really well, actually. Non-linear, like that. That's such a good way to describe things, like non-linear, because it's you don't have that schedule for like comedy or
no,
drama or
no.
whatever anymore.
It's like everything we've gone from a totally linear where everything we consumed, it was just like whatever time it was on the telly, you were kind of forced to either watch it then or wait for it to come on, or like stick your videotapes in and watch pre-record or stuff that you'd recorded in the past. And it was the same with news before the internet came out. It's the same with newspapers, wasn't it? You'd buy a newspaper now,
Mm.
and like you already know everything that's in it because it was like from 12 hours ago. It's like completely changed. Which it's within this information kind of super highway now, aren't we? Where everything's a million miles an hour. I quite like now and again sitting down with a paper, just having a little read, especially where it's the kind of longer commentary articles and a bit more in depth than you perhaps sit down and read on your phone. Quite like that, especially sport and stuff. Reading what ex players think about a team, our team's done, or giving little insights and stuff. I think that's where it could kind of still live on, really, going into those more in depth articles and stuff, rather than just your kind of news reporting, which most of the tabloids do.
How long do you reckon like newspapers will survive?
Probably they'll probably survive as long as humans, until until we get to the stage where we've basically got digital paper and we're reading stuff. But
Like
even
Harry
then, it
Potter
won't be.
sort of thing, like moving pictures.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not really a Harry Potter fan, but I can kind of imagine what you mean. There's something in Minority Report, the film with Tom Cruise, where there was like a digital newspaper and it was updating like breaking news. This fella was on the run. I remember
Yeah,
seeing that. So yeah, probably something similar to that. But yeah, I'm a bit of a traditionalist at heart, so I quite like the oldie worldy way of doing stuff. I'll still buy a paper and have a little read through it.
I used to love getting the newspaper. I used to always get it for the sport. I think I used to buy. I can't remember which one I used to buy now, but the the newspaper thing. I wonder how long it's going to be around because Gen Z, they I'm not sure if they take to like physical magazines and newspapers. I'm not sure if they're. I personally think in like 50 years, I'd be surprised if we've still got like physical versions of things. And it'll be interesting to see how like journalism evolves with that and with all the the technology and everything.
Mm.
Did you so you were saying obviously you're doing journalism at uni. Did you cover any of that, like the future of journalism in uni?
Yeah, we did a little bit. Yeah, I think there was a module on the future of I mean, I'm talking. It was like 20 years ago since I graduated now, so
Yeah.
it was a while back. But yeah, I'm sure there was an article on the future of journalism, and I remember at the time, like when you got your first 2 years out the way, and then in the third year you specialised in one particular route. So there was newspapers, there was radio, TV, and online had only just come out really. Google. Well, there was no social media back then. 2003 it was. I graduated, so there's no social media. Google was probably like 3 or 4 years old, maybe. I only really started using it in second year uni, which makes me sound like a dinosaur. I've got a little nephew he's 18 next week, and like I'll tell him stuff like he was born in 2005, so I'll tell him stuff from
Wow.
like the 90s, and you can just see it blowing his like mind. I'm like, I didn't even have a mobile phone until I went to uni. First year at uni, the year 2000 was my first phone. So yeah, it's mad kind of thinking back, but I remember at that stage, I was like, "What shall I do here?" Wasn't really keen on telly or radio, and the newspaper route. You had to get up and do 2 hours of shorthand every single day, and I was like, not doing that. Like, don't fancy getting up every day after a Wednesday night at Tokyo Joe's. No thanks. So yeah, in my final year, I did online journalism. So we learned a little bit of HTML and Dreamweaver, so how to build a website, and also a little bit of Photoshop, which is mad because I still use the Photoshop skills today. Just really basic stuff like cropping around and cutting out people's heads and stuff. But I'll use that for some of my LinkedIn content. So it's handy having all of that stuff. I mean, I'm
You
talking
use
like
the
in the
skills
two
you learned in
hands of
uni
a
20
day.
years ago on Photoshop now.
Honestly, stuff I did. I've always had a copy of Photoshop wherever I've worked, and even just like for my kind of private stuff. Whenever I want to kind of crop a photo, or like I said, cut a head out, I still kind of use that. And there's people doing like guides to how to use Canva and stuff. I'm like, I learned Photoshop back when I was at uni. So yeah, there was only two of us. There was like 100 people in the year, and two of us did online journalism. So there was three online journalism tutors, and there was two students. So I got like a really intensive training. Um, And yeah, so they kind of merged us. We were the undergraduates. They merged us with a master's class as well. So there's like 10 doing a master's in online journalism. One of whom went on to become famous. Do you remember? I don't know when he won it. A few years ago, the Lost Voice guy in Britain's Got Talent, Lee Ridley. Do you ever remember
Lee
him?
Ridley.
Lee Ridley. He's a comedian. Yeah, Lost Voice guy. He's a guy. He's got cerebral palsy, and he tells kind of all ableist jokes. And I think what's this? I'm only in this for the free parking or something, or I'm only in this for the parking badge. He's hilarious. Like, so he was one of the guys on the MA.
Oh wow, yeah, I recognise this guy actually.
Yeah, yeah. So he went on. He actually won that, which was nuts. But so he was at the time, yeah, he was doing the MA. It was like a 1 year master's course, and we kind of had a master's, almost like a master's level focus for undergraduate level. They're like doing the set, using the same textbooks and stuff. So that was really good. And like I said, it stood me in kind of good stead. I was still learning the journalism, um, the journalism part to it. So rather than like the newspaper route, they had to make like a newspaper every week, and the radio route had to make like radio packages and stuff. I had to build my own website and add like multimedia to it. So I made like a student travel website for my final course, and I was interviewing like people from student travel agents. Went to the university doctor asking them about immunisations. Doing like travel guides and all. Oh, this is like pre-trip advisor. So yeah, the very basic of the basic. But putting all my kind of writing skills to the test alongside the technical stuff. So it was good. Yeah, I loved it. Yeah.
Awesome. So what did you do after uni then?
So my first job was as a football writer for the Premier League website, or it was a company that it was an agency that had the contract to do the website for the Premier League sponsor at the time, which is Barclaycard. I think that it was part of their remit. They needed to have some kind of website with regularly updated stuff, and this agency, they had the contract for that. So I was one of like four writers writing about. I think we had like five teams each. Um, just writing about all the transfers that were happening. It was straight after I'd graduated, so yeah, I was writing about all the transfers that summer and any get kind of friendly games that I had. I was only there for like 4 months. They let me go in the end. I don't think my face really fit there, but it was a decent little job. Didn't pay great. Paid terribly, in all honesty, but. It was kind of doing journalism in a roundabout way. I wasn't doing any first-hand interviews or anything. Most of it was just rewriting what was on the Press Association newsfeed, but I was still giving it my best shot really. And then yeah, once I got let go from there, a few months later, one of my old lecturers got in touch, and he knew that I was obviously looking for work. And he's like, "Do you fancy coming and being the editor of our journalism department website?" So I went back to the uni where I'd just done my course, and all my tutors that had been teaching me, they became my colleagues. So yeah, I was working alongside them. Not teach, although I did do a little bit of teaching actually. Stood in for a lecture one day, which was mad when you're like 22, like teaching, a class of people who are only like maybe 2 years younger than you, all your kind of expertise. But I mean, I suppose I'd graduated by then, so I kind of blagged it a little bit. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I was there for like a couple of years. Yeah, working on various websites at the uni as editor of them. So yeah, interviewing students, writing about courses, and guest lectures would come in, and or if they get like this fancy new kit, I'd write all about that for the website. So even then, I thought it was still rooted in journalism, but it was still plugging the uni. I was still copywriting in a way. I was still kind of advertising, more kind of PR, I suppose, than raw copywriting. But it was the job after that where I found copy. So I ended up getting a job. Wanted to be close to home. I went to uni in Preston, which is like an hour away from Liverpool. But I'd met a girl at the time and wanted to move back home to be closer to her. And yeah, found a job just it was like over the road from my primary school where I went to. So like the very first place where I learned all of this, the writing and
That's
storytelling and
weird.
stuff. Yeah, it was like over the road, like 20 yards away, and I was working for that company, which was a Christmas hamper company, which a bit of a mad one at the time, but yeah, I was their
It was a what?
customer
Sorry.
magazine, a Christmas hamper company. So you get these Christmas hampers, full of, they had meat hampers and confectionery sweet hampers and
Yeah.
stuff. So people, mainly lower income families, they would save up throughout the year, and then at the end of the year, they get this, big hamper in return. So that, I mean, that was the kind of the traditional side of the business. A lot of the things that they sold were mainly gift vouchers, so people would, give 10 quid a week throughout the year, and at the end of the year, they'd have 500 quid for to buy all their kids Christmas presents. But I mean, these are the type of people, if their washing machine broke in like March, they didn't have enough money to buy a new one, so they'd end up dipping into their Christmas fund. So this was a kind of a more, what's the word, like a more sensible way, I suppose, of
Mm.
making sure that your Christmas was sorted regardless of what happened through the year. So yeah, I was there for about 10 years. Started as the editor of their customer magazine, and then by the time I left, I was doing the product catalog, all the sales emails. I had a small team who did. I was head of copy there when I left, so we were doing everything that the company produced, really, by way of marketing, messaging, all went through me. So yeah, I'd kind of learned on the job there. I made that transition from journalist to copywriter within like a decade working there.
What kept you there so long then?
Just, it was handy. It was around the corner from where I lived, so it was a cushy little job. It was doing kind of what I'd gone to uni for. The money was all right. I had a load of mates there. I never really kind of wanted to. I thought, this just suits me. Like, I didn't really see myself working in a big city. The Premier League website, that was in Manchester, so I was travelling back in there. It's like, sod that, I'm not doing that every single day. And remote working, again, it's like I got that job in like 2005. I don't even think broadband was powerful enough back then to support remote work, and I think we was still just in the throes of dial-up internet. So everything was kind of office based, and yeah, I just got into a little routine there. Probably outstayed me welcome by like 5 years. Um, when you kind of or I certainly did, kind of got quite comfortable in the job. Got to the point where it was like I knew it inside out. I didn't really have that much confidence to kind of think I could go out and better myself or get a better job, or there was nothing really out there. I always had one eye on the market, but I was like, let's just stay here. But then, yeah, after about 8 years, one of my mates who worked there, he just up sticks and moved to Dubai. Him and his missus, she had a job as a cabin crew for one of the airlines out there, and he moved over there and got a job at an agency, and then got in touch with me to see if I wanted to do a little bit of work for them. So that was the first time I was like, I could earn a little bit on the side here. So that lit the fuse
Mm.
for what I'm doing now, really. Yeah, and that was like probably 20. When was that? That was about 2014, 2015, and then within 18 months, I'd sacked my job off and went full time freelance. Started it on my own, like. So. Yeah, that was the kind of transition. So
Were you nervous about setting up your own business and pulling the trigger?
somebody asked me that earlier today, and probably a tiny bit, really, because I've been when he asked me to do that job for him, and I got paid for it. I was like, right, I want to do more of these little jobs. So they were sending me more work. I was doing more work for the agency, but writing for like big brands out in the Middle East. Like, I was writing for the likes of Standard Chartered and Land Rover and Emirates while I was still doing a day job in a Christmas hamper factory. It was just like, what? Just nuts. Like, it blew my mind at the time. So I was almost earning like a second wage for about 9 months, I'd say. And in that time, I thought, right, I need to start, marketing myself almost and attracting other clients rather than this one. So how can I do that? Right, I'll stick a portfolio together. So um, bought a web domain, branded myself the Word Man. I thought, right, let's just see how it goes. Like, I wasn't really. I thought, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I've still got a job at the end of the day. So yeah, I'd stuck my portfolio online, and I kind of SEO'd all my pages to be top of Google for, like, Liverpool copywriter and North Wales copywriter, and people kind of close enough to be able to travel to if they wanted me to meet them. And the clients just started coming in. Like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow. I'd get a phone. Yeah, just work for this kayak company in Mold, North Wales. Do you fancy writing our product descriptions? Companies like you'd never even heard of, and probably just on industrial estates, just needed copy, and I was the go-to guy because they'd Googled, and I was landing like number one, and I had a bit of a portfolio behind me with like the likes of Land Rover and Emirates and Standard Chartered, and it was like, he knows what he's doing here.
Well, so just
Yeah, so it
inbound
went on from
business,
there.
like just from a website, or
That's all it was. Yeah, I just I'm still to this day. I'm top for. If you type in freelance copywriter Liverpool, I'm number one. Freelance copywriter North Wales, I'm number one. Freelance copywriter Manchester, I'm number one. It's just like, just from sticking that website up there and just having that in my H1 tag. It's just like, again, that was just on from having a couple of conversations with the SEO people in the hamper company where I worked, and they were like, "This is your best bet of doing it." Like, so no paid, no social at that point. Wasn't even on Twitter, nothing at all. And I was getting inquiries through, so it was kind of just like, in my own head, I'm thinking, is this how easy it is? So I just
yeah,
have to put a website up there, and then of course, yeah, I did a little bit more reading and how to market yourself, and this magical thing called social media was there, as a shining light. So I joined Twitter and connected with all the copywriters and creatives on Twitter. Um, Only really, like, 2015, I think I started taking it seriously, and it just went on from there. I went to like the Pro Copywriters Network conference, got the hamper company to pay for it. I was like, yeah, this will benefit me in work, so yeah, they paid for it, and made loads of contacts there, and kind of started building up my network. So that was that was like probably around about the same time I'd set up my portfolio. I thought, right, I'm gonna start market myself on Twitter as well. And it was never like, hi, come and hire me, do this. It was always just, here's stuff I've written. If you want something similar, give me a buzz. It was just all dead chilled. It was no hard sell. It's just the kind of way I've always felt comfortable. Flogging my own stuff, which is, I'll give away as much as I can for free, and I'll show you everything I've done. And if you like it, sound, let's have a chat, and we'll take it from there. Like, but so yeah, so I was getting the clients in, doing that. Like, I remember going, like, on my dinner hour, I'd have a call. Hi, can you meet me? And I'd be like, yeah, let's meet in Starbucks, Cheshire Oaks, like a little shopping centre by us. So I met this client. I had like on the clock, like an hour. I had to be there and back, clock in and clock out. So I met him. I was like, yeah, go ahead, let's take a brief, do the product descriptions, and then that night, like, finished work on 6 o'clock. I was working like 6 till 10, like most nights, just from the dining room table. I was just smashing the work, and it was nuts. I was
is it
earning.
like,
I
did you ever get burnt out, or like, do you just love it?
just loved it. At the start, it was just pure, like, I'm doing this just to earn mega, and I felt like mega bucks at the time because I was earning a salary, and I was earning probably not far off my other salary, so I doubled my money within like 9 months, and I was just like, this is mad. This is mad. So yeah, the money was the big draw, but then I loved the freedom. I'd been writing for 5 businesses within the group that I worked for. They had 5 different brands. I'd been writing about them for 10 years. So to
Mm.
be given these briefs, I was just like, I'll gobble all of them up. Like, I was dying to do it. It was stuff that I loved doing. It never felt like a chore, and the fact that I was getting paid for it as well, it was just like, I was in pure dreamland. And then it got to the point where I had the opportunity um, to take voluntary redundancy, and I was just like, it's now or never. Like, so, yeah, that was 2016. And then me noticing, um, yeah, left that company. I haven't only really been freelancing for, like, properly for 9 months on the side. But I had the
Mm.
website set up. I was working for about 3 clients regularly, only small fry compared to what I charge now. Probably a tenth of what I charge now. But to me back then, that was mega bucks because I was comparing it to not a low paid job in my previous role, but it was nothing compared to what's available and what the opportunities are available to you when you're freelancing in comparison. So after about 9 months of freelancing, handed me notice in and went freelance, and I came to this place. I've been here ever since 2016. That was so that meant like a co-working space now. So it's yeah, and the co-working space was introduced to me by one of my third ever client at the time, whose accountant actually runs it, and he sits over there, and he's my accountant
Oh,
now.
really?
Does my books and my limited company. Yeah, he helped me set all of that up. Like after a couple of years that I was here, so it's just a bit of a mad whirlwind kind of journey into it. But to answer your question, no, didn't because I had the portfolio, because I had a few clients, because I had the ability, I think, I knew I was quite confident in bringing new clients in if I put the work in, and just carried on growing my network on social. I knew, like, what is it, Kevin Costner? If you build it, they will come. I was like, that's all I've got to do, really. Just keep plugging away. And I've always had, since then, I've never had a single dry patch. Not one have I ever thought, bloody hell, where's the next client coming in? It's always been the other way around, which I'm like dead lucky because I know I've got mates who it's not like that for them. They find it hard to drum up work, especially now, cost of living
Is it
rise and
luck
stuff.
though? Like what are you doing that all the other copywriters aren't doing?
Um, I think the timing of it is probably luck. I had a few opportunities that kind of just fell into my lap. Like I was working in a job, but the confidence was low. And my mate, Matt, in Dubai went, yeah, you fancy doing this? I was like, oh, yeah, sound. I mean, I know you're probably right. It's like what's the saying? The harder I work, the luckier I get. But
Mm.
back then, it just felt like if he hadn't given me that, I wouldn't be sat here today. That was the one thing that gave me the kind of confidence to do it. So I see that as luck. Maybe the fact that I was going home and grafting, doing 4 hours a night while doing a day job and not really having much of a social life outside of it. Um, that's probably hard work. But yeah, I'd say it all stemmed from that one thing. And I mean, I never, what's the phrase? I always get phrases wrong. I never rest on my laurels. I always do think that the moment I stop working hard, I think that kind of luck might run out, but there's still a lot of luck in it. There's loads of little opportunities that have only just kind of stumbled my way, and you look back at them and think, like, how have they found me? It's not just like, oh hi, you know we've been recommended, yeah, or we found you on social media. Just be like, just pure like out the blue, weird circumstances that have ended up with clients at my door. So I think there's probably yeah luck and hard work kind of merged into one really.
I think you're underplaying your hard work aspect, to be honest, because I think even if you could go up to someone, they could be working like a similar situation to you, and they could get a situation where they could set up their own company, and you chuck them an opportunity, but you go, look, you don't have to work every evening, but you have to do it 3 nights a week, 6 till 10, for the next 6 months, and then you'll earn 5 times what you're earning now. But you have to put in that graph for 6 months. Most people, I don't think, would do it, honestly. And I think, I suppose a lot of people aren't working a job they're passionate about anyway. But
Mm.
yeah, for you, I think that's pretty incredible that you were doing one job and then having the energy and the mental strength to go and do another one in the evening, especially as well. Like it's not like my background's in like recruitment and sales,
Mm.
but yours is a creative job. So like, did you ever get like writer's block at all, or did you ever find that because you were working like two jobs, did you ever find that your main jobs was suffering at all because the creative juices were like running out, or
I think the type of work that I was doing, it wasn't like the stuff I do now. A lot of the stuff I do now is kind of the big idea. So it's concepts for campaigns, it's tone of voice stuff, which it's I probably do like 20% writing, 80% thinking and research, and just like writing kind of all a myriad of words down on my pad, hoping that kind of something will spark. Whereas back then it was like, here's a brief, write an email, here's the product, do that. And it was like I knew I had a subject line to write, had like still create some an element of creativity involved,
Mm.
because it was quite task orientated and not um the world journalist. They come up with a campaign, a big idea that's going to engage people, which is like, fuck, I'd probably need a week to get my head around some of these kind of campaigns. The briefs are that kind of in depth, and there's so many different considerations, and I've got to do audience research and all everything that comes with it. Back then, yeah, it felt quite kind of almost like, not like a battery hen, but just like, yeah, the projects were just coming in and I was just smashing them, and it was like another one. It wasn't like I was having to really sit down and go, oh, my head's battered with a load of ideas. It was just, right, I can write that, because I was head of copy for that other company, because I've been doing it for years. I was just good at it. I could do it, and I've always been able to be able bloody hell, it's a long day. Yeah, I've always been able to kind of get in that zone when I need to just do a task. I'll just go, and I try not overthink stuff. And if I ever hit writer's block, same way I used to tackle exams. Like, if I didn't know the answer to something, it was just, right, next, I'll move on to something else. Same now. If I hit writer's block now, I don't sit there and go, oh, bloody hell, I'm never going to solve this problem. I just go, right, okay, I'll move on to something else, because your brain incubates stuff, doesn't it? Your brain just does all the little thinking. Pile all the info in there, and it'll sort it out on its own. At the weirdest times, like, I've got all my notes in my phone from when I get up in the middle of the night, or when the baby's crying and I've had to he's in the middle of the bed between us. I'm like that on my notes. Some mad ideas just come to me head, and I'm like that. And my missus is elbowing me, going, "No, turn the phone down." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"No, gotta get this idea down." It's like they come at you at the worst, or you can't predict when the ideas will come at you. Um, so yeah, I forgot the original question was now, but yeah, I'd gone kind of gone off on a little bit of a mad tangent, but
That's interesting though, because I can't remember what book I read. It was a quite a well-known book, but it was about the processing power of the conscious mind and the unconscious mind.
mm,
And I can't, what was the book called? Maybe it'll come to me. But it was basically, supposedly our unconscious mind has basically like an infinite amount of processing power. And it was interesting to hear what you just said there, because a lot of people obviously struggle with writer's block, whether they're copywriters or journalists or novelists or even like, music artists. And you seem to have a very relaxed attitude towards it. Whereas I know for a lot of people, it's like, have you seen Limitless, the movie Limitless?
yeah, Bradley Cooper.
Yeah, yeah. So he obviously gets writer's block in that at the start. That's the sort of the jump off point of the movie, and it
Mm,
sort of drives him nuts, and he like turns to alcohol and stuff. And I know that happens to quite a lot of like artists and stuff. But yeah, anyway, for you, it's like it was interesting to hear you say that I'll just move on to something else, and then the brain will sort it out, because apparently that's what the brain does. From like they've done like studies, and it like it does actually work like that. If you just sort of like pass it off to your brain, sort of thing, and just be like, sort that out, I'll come back to it. And
yeah.
then, like you said, it's like a notification. It's like, oh, we've got an idea now in the middle of the night at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Honestly, that's exactly what it's like. And some of the stuff, some of my best thoughts have happened in the middle of the night, where I haven't been thinking about a job for like 2 days, and I'll just go bing in there, and I'm like, right, I'll write that down, and then the next day I'll send it to me, send it to yourself and get it up on my desktop. And some of them ideas are like, wow, where did that come from? You don't even know where it's come from. It's just sparked. It might have been, I might have glimpsed at a billboard driving home, and that's just maybe thought, oh, how could that be adapted? Or I've overheard something, in the pub at the weekend, or I've not that I go to the pub anymore because I've got a little one, or like I could have, I don't know, like even watching something on Netflix. It's like, oh yeah, never heard that phrase before. That might come in handy, and it's just like that's not even a conscious thing. It just goes in there, and your brain just goes, "Yep, sound. I'll take that. I'll rework it." But back to like you said before about like I'm quite relaxed about it. I always have been really. It's like I'm not a surgeon. It's like at the end of the day, I'm just doing a, I'm just doing a, I'm just creating some ads. I'm doing a little bit of marketing. What's the worst that could happen if I don't? 99 times out of 100, I'll at least have some idea as to where it's going to go, and that idea is going to be 99 times out of 100 better than anybody or most other people that I know either works within the company that they could give it to. So it's gonna at least solve some element of the brief. On the rare occasion that it doesn't, I don't go too hard on myself. I just again, it's probably back to have been lucky enough to have that kind of luxury of choice in terms of clients. I'm not like, I'm not, my family's not going to starve if I miss out. If a client goes, oh, you haven't solved that brief for us, see you later, and bins me off. It's like, so I never really try and, take too much pressure on myself. And if it ever gets to the point where a job's doing me head in or I can't nail the brief, yeah, I just take a step back and it irons itself out normally.
Hmm. Do you have like a creative process that you've honed? Like do you have like a step by step guide that you go through? Like a place you write, time of day you write, or like do you just do stuff and not really realize what you do?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like that kind of regimented routine stuff, I mean, I'm in here most days. I do like an average kind of almost like a 9 to 5 job. If I'm behind, if I've got something to present tomorrow, I might stay late um to finish it off. But yeah, the ideas themselves, like I said, can come from anywhere. They're writing them down, they're kind of polishing them, they're putting them into a nice, pretty deck to present to my clients. That usually kind of just happens here. The process itself, I tend to start whatever the brief is. The client will send over the brief, and I'll, take one look at it. I'll highlight all the bits that stand out. I'll kind of rip it apart and say, right, I don't understand that bit. So I'll make a list of questions. What does that acronym mean? I've never read that before in my life. I basically want to get down to the crux of how will this product or service improve someone's life. That's kind of all I want to get to.
Mm.
And once I know that answer, I can then work back into how I'm going to communicate that in the most effective way so that whoever's reading it at whatever time of day, on whatever device, wherever they're consuming that, they're going to go, shit, like that speaks to me. Like I'll read that, I'll click that. So that's basically it. I try and keep things that as simple as that. Obviously, it takes a little bit of time. If normally briefs are like 8 pages long, and then it's like I'm going back to them saying, okay, can you tell me this? Can you tell me that? But once I've got all of that stuff, yeah, I just take a bit of a scalpel to it all, and I normally end up with like one, yeah, 1 page maybe, a 1 page with here's the audience, here's the thing that they need to know, here's how it's going to improve their life, here's what I want them to think, feel, do, that type of stuff, and then take it from there. And the good clients I work with, they kind of all of that's really succinct within their briefs. But then there's you get I've got my own briefing form with like 10 questions on. If it's a bit small business, that's never really, someone's maybe said, oh, you need a copywriter to do your website, and they've never really done it before. It can be a bit like pulling teeth. It's like, okay, so what do you want the clients to do when they're like, I don't know, just buy from us. Like they don't know what a sick call to action is or anything. So everything's kind of got to be kind of dumbed down. But I mean, they're a bit more few and far between now. I tend to work with clients who know a bit more about what they're doing, and then yeah, in terms of the creative bit, once I know all of that stuff, I tend to not. I don't just plow in and go, oh, I'll start writing down a load of ideas. I'll let it settle for a day or two. And again, I've got the luxury of working with clients and on brands who understand that that's needed. It's not just like I can still even today get emails. Hi, can you help us with a website? We need it done by Friday. And it's like clearly not, like no chance. Like I probably haven't even got time to meet you before Friday, let alone write
Yeah.
the 5 pages, mate. So it's yeah, they can be a little bit a little bit funny, um but yeah, once I know what I'm writing about, the kind of the ideas and stuff, I tend to to get over, I've always kind of done this, to get over a blank page, I split the page into 4 boxes, and whatever I'm writing about, I'll do a box with the top left is like synonyms, top right is experiences, bottom left is rhymes, and the bottom right is idioms. So say I'm writing about, a pair of headphones, whatever.
Mm.
Top left, I'll write synonyms. So what are other words for headphones? So it'll be like earbuds, audio, DJ, anything kind of related to what it is. Then it'll be experiences, and I'll write down my own experiences of headphones. So it'll be like, oh, I remember my first ever set of headphones. I remember I was like 8. Got a Walkman for my 8th birthday with a Whitney Houston tape, and they had like a little metallic band around, which was dead flimsy, and it could probably break. So I'm just jotting all of this down, just my experience of the actual product, which sometimes it's impossible because I'll be writing about like a CRM system, which I've never
Yeah.
even never even had the unfortunate yeah I've never come across really. So sometimes that's not possible. And then there's one obviously with rhymes. So if it's headphones, or it'll be like bedphones, or a mug could be like jug, thug, whatever. And sometimes a little bit of wordplay can come out of that. And then the bottom one is idioms. So if it was anything to do with headphones is probably a weird one. But if it was like keys, I'm just looking around for objects here. It'd be like what idioms? So it's like the key to the door, number 4. That's like a bingo expression, and then it'll be like the key to the soul, the key to. And I'm writing down as many kind of and all that's doing, it's getting my brain thinking about all the potential kind of connections between all of these words, all of these phrases, which might, or usually doesn't, which might just result in a nice little hook that the rest of the copy can flow from. Might be a nice call to action. Something I create on that page might just be in a little button at the bottom of an email, or it could be the subject line, or it might just kind of lead onto other ideas. So try and do that first, and it gets you past the blank page. You haven't got a blank
Mm.
page anymore because you've got this tiny little dead quick. It takes 5 minutes. Little process at the start of every job where you can just go right. So that's the kind of first way. But then, I mean, there's loads of other stuff that goes into it. Researching the audience. So whatever I'm writing about, they've normally got their own kind of client or customer personas, which again aren't really worth the paper that they're printed on usually. So
Right.
I will I will say, where do your customers hang out? Like what where do they consume their content? What are they? Where will I see your customers chatting to one another, or at least kind of voicing their opinions about whether it's your products, whether it's something else. And I'll go and have a little snoop, maybe on review sites or forums, or customer emails. Sometimes are great, where customers have been complaining. You just see the terminology that they're using to talk about the product or the service, and then sometimes you can play that back within the copy itself, and you can kind of talk in their language almost. So that's a nice way to do it, really getting your head into the voice of the customer. So there are a couple of little ways that I'll get the ball rolling. And then in terms of like the big idea itself, I'll tend to group things into themes. So if I'm working on, an ad concept for a product, say it was a pair of headphones, I go, right, done all my research, got all of these kind of words out. What can I do now? I'll start to group them into like little pots, almost like little buckets. And say, okay, so one of the buckets, they want to communicate that these headphones are they've got the world's best anti-noise cancellations sound. So that's one bucket. So I'll start to write kind of stuff around that. So it'll be words around anti-noise cancellation. So it'll be like, mute the background noise, mute the world, mute the dog. What else can I mute? So I'm just lashing all of these words down. And then another bucket might be, you've got the longest battery life out of any other headphones in the range. So then all the phrases I'm writing about that will be, lasts all day, lasts longer than you, 24/7 listening. I'm just bashing all of these kind of phrases down. And again, like when I split it into boxes, normally there'll be the semblance of a half decent idea from which something else will hang. And then again, I'll go, once I've done that for say 3 different concepts, I'll go away and leave it another couple of days, and then the magic stuff just happens in your head. Another couple of ideas will form. You'll just add to it throughout the day. A few more notes that you've made in the middle of the night, and then before long, after normally like a week, you've got the bare bones of some decent creative ideas that are gonna that
So
are
do
gonna stop
you
people.
actually force yourself almost to walk away and leave it for a couple of days? Is that something you do every time, or?
Yeah, I've normally got the capacity within the kind of deadline to it's very rare that it'll be like, yeah, Dave, here's a brief, we need it back tomorrow. I normally flood my brain with all of that stuff at the start, do that outpouring of initial ideas and stuff, and then yeah, just force myself to leave it. And it's honestly, if you've never done it before, it sounds like I'm bullshitting you that your brain does all of this stuff, but it genuinely does. You come back to it, it's like I'm looking at it with a fresh set of eyes, with all and there's loads of these little connections, and I'm getting rid of this shit stuff. And I'm focusing in on the good. I'm like, yeah, that's gonna work. That's because it's kind of just done the thinking for you. Again, it
Mm,
sounds a bit like Darren Brown almost, like subliminal stuff, but
yeah,
it's like it's proven to work. It works for me, and it works for loads of other copywriters I know as well. So it's build time into anything that involves like coming up with a big idea. You need to build that time in. Like I said, the task stuff, writing an email, whatever. You can all if you're skilled enough and you've got enough of a background in doing that stuff, you'll normally be able to rattle off 5 subject line alternatives, or a call to action, or 200-word body of an email, or whatever. Probably not even that long needed anymore. But the big idea in itself, where everything else stems from, I'm talking like your campaign concept from which 20 different social media ad variants will flow, a 5 or 6 email campaign, right down to like the wording on the app that you want people to use stems from that 1 2 word phrase sometimes, and it's got to be kind of watertight for everything else to flow from it, because if it's not, you're just going to confuse people.
do you ever see like big, like big brand campaigns on TV, or like, on the London Underground or whatever, and you just think that's awful?
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, it's not more so in the B2B world. Loads of B2B stuff is quite nice. I think people tend to have like a different head on when they write for B2B, which I get called out quite a bit. I do a newsletter every Friday. Now and again, I'll throw something in there which is just the worst dross, the worst of the worst, and I'll say like, "Who writes this shit?" It's like one of my dad's phrases when I was growing up. He'd say, he'd see something or whatever, or it'd be like a really bad B movie, where like the dubbing's really bad, and they're doing these like it's like Jackie Chan's poor relative is like a terrible actor, awful moves, and my dad would just look at me and go, "Who writes this shit?" And then that kind of phrase, whenever I see a bad ad or something, it's just I can just hear his voice in my head. I was telling him the other day actually that's his voice echoes through my brain whenever I hear or whenever I read some bad ads. So yeah, so I see it all the time, and it's like you just wonder where A, who's briefing it in, B, who's writing it, and C, who the hell's signing it off. It's like
Yeah,
I really I feel bad for someone within that chain, because somebody must know what they're doing, and very often and not, because when it's a big brand, there's that many stakeholders involved. There's that many people in the sign-off procedure that what started life as probably quite a nice little idea has probably been, chipped away at. What's that? Oh no, or like we've got a shoehorn in. Oh, we haven't spoken about our innovative solutions, so that gets chiseled in, or added in after, and then it's like, oh no, it doesn't fit on such and such. Let's take this word out, and then before you know it, it's just like Frankenstein's monster, and it's not worth
mm,
the paper it's printed on. So I see it all the time. But I see loads of really nice and good stuff. Um, and like I say nice. It's like all that matters really is it effective? It's like I could say, oh, that reads nice,
yeah.
or that looks nice. If it hasn't sold any more Whoppers for Burger King, it hasn't done its job. Like you can win all the awards you want, but like it's got to sell at the end of the day, and it's the brands that are kind of where it's making a real impact. They're the best ones. Like, and you can normally tell if it grabs my attention, I know I'm kind of biased because I'm looking for this type of stuff. I often think, am I too biased? Like, would I have noticed that billboard? Would I have taken a photo of that on the train if I wasn't working in this industry? Like, would my mum, if an ad was targeted at my mum, would my mum notice that if she was sat on the bus? I don't know, probably not. I'd have to ask her. But yeah, it's a bit of a kind of weird one. But the good stuff, I try and share that as well. I don't just, I'm not just I don't just slate the worst. I try and big up the good stuff as well. There's loads of people in our industry who do that as well. Vicky Ross, she's like the greatest UK copywriter at the moment in my eyes. Like in terms of kind of benefiting the industry and talking about all the good stuff that goes on. She gets people jobs and shares all the best ads and stuff. So she's a shining light. And I was, again, dead lucky. I keep saying lucky. Stop saying that, shouldn't I? I was dead lucky to kind of meet her early on and make connections with her early on when I started on Twitter before I went freelance. So I've had loads of nice, even though they're not official mentors, but loads of really great people who clearly know their stuff, who've kind of been guiding me along that way as well.
Mm. Yeah. Well, no. Yes, it sounds like you've had a really interesting journey, which has certainly been paired with like hard work and talent, right? But I mean, moving on to like what everyone will know you from, which is LinkedIn, and where's your biggest following? Is it LinkedIn or is it Twitter or?
In terms of like numbers, yeah, it's like LinkedIn. It's like 60,000 followers. I don't keep count. I do. 60,000.
When I checked today.
Oh, there you go. I'm doing myself a disservice. Yeah, 61,000 on LinkedIn. Which I don't. It's a weird one. LinkedIn. You become someone's follower just by. You don't even have to click follow sometimes, do you? You just have to consume some of their stuff. Or you just have to click on their profile and you like automatically follow them. It's happened with me in the past. So I'm a little bit dubious about LinkedIn followers, but yeah, I've got like 60,000 on there and like, I don't know, 15,000 maybe on Twitter. But LinkedIn's where I get business and Twitter's just all my creative mates. There's a very harsh divide there. Don't get any business off Twitter. Now and again, I'll get like, all right, Dave, fancy doing this job for our agency from like another creative mate of mine. But it's not somewhere where I won't do how to do this, 10 ways to do this, because I'll know the business owners that I want to read that type of stuff. They'll be on LinkedIn rather than Twitter. So yeah, I think it's more. It's back to the time thing as well. I've been using LinkedIn like seriously since 2017, 2018. So I think it's kind of just grown organically. I don't think I've like absolutely battered it and gone, oh, follow me, or I haven't done any campaigns where it's consciously about kind of build a following or grow a community. I haven't got a community. Even the following, it's like it's the sound. It's nice to have a load of people who are there reading my stuff, but that's all it is really. I just see it just purely as more people are seeing the stuff. When I click post, more people are seeing it, so it's got more chance for their second and third connections to maybe go, oh, I quite like that. I'll get in touch with them. That's all I do it for really. I'm not. You see these influencers with like gold balloons when they reach 100,000 followers, and like, oh, I'm having a party for. It's like, fuck, like, what planet are you on? That's, what I mean? It's like nuts. So the whole personal branding side of things, I mean, it's one of the things that I take the piss out of quite a lot. It's just like, no one outside of LinkedIn is really arsed, are they? It's great for your business and stuff, but most people I know in the real world, they're not even on LinkedIn. Most of my mates, they work like manual jobs. They're like, there's a fairly even split now. Half of us are office based, the rest are like pipe fitters and welders and whatnot.
Right. They just couldn't give a shit.
They're not on LinkedIn. Not on LinkedIn at all. So if I went to them and went, Mike, I've just got 60,000 followers on LinkedIn. He'd go, oh, nice one, mate. And he'd be like, what's LinkedIn? Like, I'm not asked. Like, it doesn't like bother them. So I think a lot of people building their personal brand, they can get a bit obsessed with it and just focus on
Yeah, for sure.
looking at shield metrics, and I can understand that in terms of like, oh, doing more posts, do more of what works, and sack off the less, just the polls that the posts that don't perform as well in terms of engagement. But I genuinely wouldn't be asked if I wrote a post tomorrow, it got 0 likes. What one person picked up the phone and went, "Oh, I like that post. Oh, I didn't click like on it, but will you write this for me?" I'd go, "Sound, job done." That's all. That's all it's there for, really. The vanity metrics are there just to be poked fun at, and that's what I do on a daily
That's
basis.
interesting that your success on LinkedIn is what a lot of companies and people would pay, a lot of money, tens of thousands of pounds for. And there's obviously a lot of, personal branding coaches on LinkedIn and LinkedIn coaches and stuff, way more than there was like 4 years ago.
Mm.
And even some of those guys, they have half of what you have, but you don't seem that bothered by it all, which is quite funny actually, because that's what I really wanted to ask you, like how has that affected you, like as it's grown, as you've become, well, at least in my world anyway. I can't remember how long I've been following you. It must be a few years now. It must be like 3 or 4 years,
Mm.
because you've been a bit of a mainstay of my timeline for a while. But you're, at least in my community, you're very well known. Like you're the funny copywriter guy who winds up
Mm.
scammers and posts
Mm.
really good copywriting content. And so, at no point did you ever get like, wow, this is blowing up, this is awesome, or you just like, nah, it's not us.
Yeah, I mean, the first time it blew up for me was when I did this post. It kind of went viral for 2 weeks. The numbers were just going up and up and up, and I'm just like, wasn't like screen grabbing the numbers, going, "Oh, this is amazing." All I was doing was like, "Shit, there's 300 people got in touch within the space of me posting," and 2 weeks later saying, "Can you write this? Can you write exactly what you've done for our business?" And I was contacted at the time for a big credit card company doing, again, 9 to 5 job. So I was like, I had my dinner hour, like between 12 and 1, just to like respond to as many people as I could. And like, because my background is just the writing side of things, I've never really been the type to, set up these sophisticated, automated response systems. Kind of goes against everything I stand for, really, which is just being like as authentic and as normal as you can be, really. I've never really, I don't completely understand the whole marketing machine and how it works. And, I know you've got to make that work for you. But at the time, for me, it was just like, I've had 300 people getting in touch with me. Like, I'll use that, and my focus. I'll respond to them. I'll see what work I can drum up. Ended up getting a good, probably like between 20 and 30 grand's worth of business off the back of that one post. So that was me just like going, oh, okay, sound. So if I can replicate that approach, um, it's going to bring more business in. It was like a no-brainer. So again, at that stage, at no point was I going, oh, let's get loads of followers. I kind of knew that having more followers would, result, like I said before, in a wider reach for every post that you put out. So it's great having 60,000. If I had 6,000 as opposed to 60,000, a much smaller number of people would be seeing that stuff, and hence,
Mm.
a much smaller number of people would have the potential to get in touch with me. It's just maths, isn't it? But yeah, at the time, I wasn't focused on growing the followers numbers. Never have been. It's always just been about getting them inquiries in. Um, and yeah, at the time when when it went viral, it had like 1 million views. There was no, I wasn't there was no like tracking or anything back then on LinkedIn. It was just like what you saw at the bottom of the post, that's the number. And if
Right.
you refresh the page, it would go up a little bit. There wasn't like these little charts or anything. It wasn't as sophisticated as that. But yeah, it was just like, how can I replicate this? How can I get more business in? So I just started trying similar stuff to what I'd done. That post was more about kind of descriptive copywriting, just dead simple. It was relatable. It was transferable to any business, and it made people stop and think. You go, wow, yeah, bloody hell. All I need to do is make that little change, and that could improve my copy on my website. Sound, he knows what he's talking about. Let's get in touch. I've had a few copywriters over the years actually get into say, why are you giving all your secrets away? Like you're giving away stuff that they should be paying for. And I'm like, because everyone's lazy. They won't do it
Yeah.
themselves. They'll see that I know what I'm talking about and just go, "Hey, can you come and see that post you've done there? Can you come and do that for us?" So yeah, I think I annoy a few people, but yeah, the personal brand thing. I've never kind of consciously done it. I mean, I'm not soft. I know just by the amount of engagement most of my stuff gets that I'm probably the known person for that funny copywriting. More people are doing it now, so by no means think I'm the only one doing it. There's so many funny writers on there, like proper hilarious, like which I love and um yeah, consume their stuff every day. But it's not really anything. It's probably to my detriment. I think if I had a bit more of a grip on my kind of personal brand and was the type to go, right, okay, I know I've got X number of followers. I'm gonna create a digital product for every single type of persona within those people, or I want to really delve deep into the my audience and write stuff for all the main job titles that are within. It's like I'm what like if I was business minded and wanted to kind of run this big business where it was just a content churn sound, I'd do that. But I've never really wanted to be a manager even. I just love the creative
Mm.
stuff. It's what gets me out of bed. And if it means I earn 100 grand less than I probably could by being really shrewd and putting a load of digital products out, then so be it. I'm not short, so I'm not really one to be chasing after those big. You see people all the time. "Oh, I've made 200,000 in the last 6 months by doing these. Followed my 10 steps." Like fuck off. Like I'm not asked. Like so what? I know that's what some people kind of that's their idea of success. For me, it's not at all. It's not.
Mm.
It's living happy. It's having enough, to feed my family, have the odd holiday, to have a decent car, and have fun in what I do. I'm quite happy doing that. So, that said, I am planning a few little fun things, a few little products like a course and a book, and another little business, which are naturally gonna involve me going into that area of selling, which is
Yeah.
it's just a murky world for me because most of my stuff is just inbound, and I just go, "Here's all my stuff. Contact me if you want me." Yeah, the actual flogging of stuff, I'll still do it in my own way, which is just 90% tongue in cheek with a little
Yeah.
semi-serious call to action at the end, which seems to work for my newsletter and stuff. So yeah, I'll follow that same approach.
I think with you, mate, you've built up such credit in the bank by providing so much value and free content, and you know, I subscribe to your newsletter. It's brilliant. If you don't subscribe to it, do. But mate, I honestly think you've got that credit in the bank where you could start selling a bit more aggressively, and people would buy your shit, and like no one would get mad because you're giving out so much free stuff and you're making people laugh, and also yeah, like you wouldn't do it like how most of us would do it because most of us just don't know how to sell on LinkedIn properly. Um, you do it in a way that's actually probably really funny or really entertaining. Um, so yeah, I wouldn't worry about that. But when's your stuff coming out? Then your courses and stuff. Like, have you got timelines on it?
Yes, I'm aiming to have the course done and dusted by the end of the summer, just so I'll get August out the way when everyone's on holiday. So probably September. I'm working on the content at the moment, and then hopefully recording it all in over the summer, so it'll all be ready to go probably around September. So that's that, and then yeah, couple of book ideas. Again, it's what I said at the start. The book stuff, most of the content's there. It's just finding the time to kind of pause my
Mm.
client work and write it. And we had a little one. Me and my missus had a little one in 2021. So he's 18 months now, and yeah, Charlotte, my wife, she stopped work. She gave up she's a hairdresser. She sold a hair salon to look after the baby full time. So yeah, so I'm the sole breadwinner. So even though I'm dead chilled out about stuff, I'm still that like, oh, I've got to keep bringing the dough in. You know what I mean? Even just pausing it for like 2 months would get me into kind of uneasy territory. So it's knowing when to slow down. I'm still going full pelt at the moment.
Did she try and get
But
you
yeah,
to
the book.
scale it at all?
Um, no, not really. No, no, no. I mean,
You both got the
it was
same sort of
great.
like attitude.
Yeah, but yeah, when she had that, I mean, she was doing it before me. She was the one who supported me to go free. She like bought a salon in like 2015, so the year before I went freelance. So she'd taken that scary leap before me. So she was obviously dead supportive at the time. But yeah, she knows she can sense what makes me happy. So she knows that I'm just happy plodding along, doing my own stuff. You know, still doing it kind of client work and the kind of silly social stuff on the side, which is the nice little balance to bringing the clients in for me at the moment. So yeah, she's never kind of pushed me. But I mean, whatever I want to do, she'll kind of support me. If I wanted to pause, I don't think she'd go, oh no, carry on
Mm.
bringing the dough in. We can't have a 2 month gap or whatever. She'd just be like, as long as you've got enough to pay the bills, that's all that matters. Like, and yeah, I think we'll be all right. But yeah, the book itself, or two book ideas that I'm working on, um, probably early next year for them too. Um, but the other kind of business idea, which I'm not revealing too much about, that should be, I'll be talking about that in probably May time. So
Yep.
um, and that would be the first opportunity where, at the moment, yeah, I don't plug for any, I don't plug my writing or invite people to really kind of work with me. People just ask me, and I take clients on a case by case basis. Whereas this new business will be like people's opportunity to work with me, um, which will be fun. But yeah, all in good time.
It's awesome, mate. I'm glad to hear things are happening for you, and you've got some future plans to scale as well. Because I think with your platform and your reputation, like the sky really could be the limit. It's just how far you want to take it, right? But um, I suppose the way to close this out, I really want to ask you about something you're probably sick of being asked about, but ChatGPT. So obviously, this is like shaking up the copywriting world a little bit. I mean, obviously, you're more involved in it than I am, but I've only ever seen like copywriters comment on it. I think I've seen you comment on it a few times. How do you feel like this will affect copywriters and journalists and stuff over the next few years? And I suppose like where do you see your industry being in the next like 10 years or so?
I can't speak for journalism. I'm so far removed from that. I wouldn't even know where to begin in terms of how it's going to be used. It'll probably be used as some kind of research tool, maybe. Um, but again, it's like when I learned journalism, when I was studying journalism, it was like you had to go and actually like do interviews with people and ask them. Whereas now, it's like such and such said on his Twitter feed, or so and so said this. Most Daily Mail articles are just reporting what such and such did on Instagram. There's none of that kind
Mm,
of first hand stuff. So I don't know whether there'll be much change in terms of. I mean, ChatGPT is just a mishmash of all different sources, isn't it? In the what it thinks is the most kind of up to date version of events. When you ask it a question or when you give it a prompt. So yeah, journalism wise, I don't really know how it will affect things. Copywriting, I think content. I mean, there's a split between copy and content for me. Copywriting is the real persuasive stuff, the real engaging, impactful stuff. The ads that you see, it's the subject lines on what kind of sales emails. They've been
mm,
copywritten to persuade you to open something, to persuade you to do something. I think content is maybe a little bit more at risk in terms of you can just bang in, write me 500 words on XYZ, and it'll spit out its shitty robotic version of whatever it thinks is a roundabout way. For those content writers who don't have to rely on, if they're more kind of, if SEO is more their thing, and it's like tone doesn't really matter, they're just there to kind of fill space with relatively informative stuff. I think it's probably going to be doing, I'd say, around about 60 to 70% of that job for those people, and then they'll be more like editors at the very end of it. And I'm saying that more. probably the 90, for say 90% of businesses, those at the top end who understand that tone of voice and kind of genuine empathy and understanding of your audience really matters. I don't think they've got anything to worry about. I think the top businesses, the biggest brands in the world, um, the top entertainment and news sites. Even though I've heard like BuzzFeed are starting to use it, I
Mm.
still think everything will be kind of put through the humans with a fine tooth comb. I think it'll be doing as much heavy lifting as say copy and pasting something off Wikipedia is at the moment. And then you kind of just have to it's probably doing a little bit more because it's putting structure in place and given you can type all sorts of prompts in. Now give me a metaphor for XYZ, and it'll kind of spit one out that you've never even thought of before. Whereas Wikipedia, you just kind of lifting what's there. Um, so yeah, I think in the content world, it will it will have a bit of a shake up before yeah, for the stuff like I said before about the processes that I do, which is all about understanding the target audience and finding a way to kind of get that stuff, get the right message across to them by either myself having an experience of it or by putting myself in the audience's shoes and understanding what makes them tick and the experiences that they've been. I don't think you will ever be able to replicate genuine human emotion and empathy. I mean, it's only going to we're at stage one, aren't we? It's only just when did they release it? ChatGPT. It's like November, wasn't it? And we're only in like the early stages. I imagine
Mm.
it's going to get a hell of a lot more sophisticated. It could probably, you can it can, at the moment it can write stuff in the style of other writers like Shakespeare and Chaucer
Yeah.
and whatever you want it to write. But and as time goes on, I think that's only going to get better. But I was chatting to another copywriter, one of my mates, Eddie Schlater, and it's like it's like plastic surgery. No matter how much those plastic surgeons try and recreate the human face, you can always tell that they've had work done. There's
Mm.
always just something just not quite right, and I think that was a great analogy for me. When you see the stuff, or even just at these early stages, when you see the stuff that is kind of produced, it's formulaic. There's a lot of repetition within there. There's no real kind of voice or tone to it. So yeah, in its current guise, I'm certainly don't see it overtaking any kind of copywriters' jobs at the moment. I think it's probably going to be used more as um, a way of getting probably past writer's block. So it'll say like,
Mm.
when you come up with a new concept, you can say like, give me 10 ideas for this, and it'll probably give you a few thought starters. Which, interestingly enough, Tom Roach is a branding expert on Twitter. He did a tweet last week saying our team's been using ChatGPT um, by whenever our team comes up with new ideas, we put them into ChatGPT, or we ask ChatGPT to come up with ideas as well. And whatever ideas ChatGPT spits back, they discount because they're not good enough. Because if a robot can think it, it's like not good enough.
Right.
It's too
Okay.
generic. So they're using it as a way of discount, which I thought was a genius way of doing it. Really smart. So yeah, in a kind of, I don't know, have I kind of covered it in a roundabout way. I'm not like not too fussed about it really, in terms of it's gonna take over things, because there's too much kind of humanity involved in in the most engaging stuff. You need a human, like from start to finish. It might be a good thought starter, or it might get you past a block, or it might come up with a little metaphor that you hadn't thought of before. So if you're at your wit's end and you cannot come up with an idea, yeah, go to ChatGPT. But it's like, if you can't come up with an idea, what the fuck are you doing in the job in the first place? It's like, surely you got to that stage where you're writing for the big brand. Surely you should, be trained in this stuff. It's like, again,
Mm.
another reference. I was chatting to somebody. Darren Brown was interviewed by Stephen Bartlett on his podcast, I think 6 months ago maybe, and he was talking. Stephen Bartlett was saying, "How did you get into hypnotism? And did you learn on YouTube and stuff?" And he's like, "No, no." He said, "I read every single book there was. all of the kind of the classic texts on hypnotism, how to do it, what happens if it goes wrong. He said, I've done all of that stuff. He said, it's probably like, I haven't done a degree in it, but I've done that level of kind of reading up. I've read everything there is to read about it. And he said, I think it's important to do that, to do things the long way around, so that
Yeah.
if I'm ever in a show and something goes wrong, I'm not just going, oh, what, YouTuber, like worrying. So I made, in my newsletter last week, I wrote the same. I was like, imagine if you're in a pitch with a client and they say, that's a great idea, that. Where did that come from? Imagine you say, oh, just put a prompt into ChatGPT. You
Yeah.
should be able to give the whole fucking history lesson of that idea about where it came from, where you were, what two little thoughts made that come to fruition, why it's going to work, why it's going to work, because it ticks these boxes, it speaks to the audience, it addresses one of their pain points. It does. At the moment, it's like the people using it, they don't even, when they're typing the prompts in, it's like what they don't even know what they're doing it for. Is it just to fill a space? They're not doing the strategy stuff at the start. It's just like,
Mm.
oh, okay, give me 500 or give me a blog post. It's like you get a 500-word blog post banging on your website. Where's the strategy behind it? Where's all the thought that's gone into it? It's like, it's great having this solution which pumps out a load of generic stuff, but like the real thought and like the reasoning behind whether it's really needed in the first place. I think that's missing as well. You need people to people need to give their head a wobble sometimes and understand that it's not the magic bullet for everything. You need strategy behind it, and it needs I think it needs the best stuff needs humanity as well. Yeah.
It really, I find it really interesting. In the recruitment world, some people have asked it to write job ads, and
Mm.
there was this, I think he was like a recruitment director, and he was going, oh yeah, we asked ChatGPT to write us a job ad, and it was fantastic. Check it out, and it was
Seen it.
very, even I could see it wasn't great, but it was all
Yeah.
right. It was okay. Um, Probably still better than most recruiters' ads that they write. And all the copywriters were like, "This is one of the worst ads I've ever seen." Like, and it was just interesting that like there was in the comment section there was like copywriters and people who actually know what they're talking about just saying this is really bad. This is really not very good at all. And then there was like loads of say recruiters or HR managers and stuff going, "Oh, that's pretty good actually. That's better than any ad
Mm.
I've ever written." And it's funny
Mm.
how those who actually know what they're talking about can spot it straight away.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, you're spot on. I think I saw that. I remember seeing Mitch Sullivan commented on it, and he just tore a new arsehole out of it. He was just like, it's generic, doesn't do this, doesn't do that, doesn't no empathy in it, there's blah, blah, blah. He just listed out all the things that was wrong with it. And it was like you're right, the people commenting on it saying, oh, this is all right, actually. They're not really the people who've got it's like the experience and the skills to be able to say, oh, yeah, that's great. It's like, you know,
Yeah.
say I've worked with agencies in the past, and when I've been pitching work, it'd be like me pitching kind of creative work to one of the juniors, and them going, "Oh yeah, no, that's great," and I'm like, "Can we get someone who knows what they're like, kind of talking about, please, maybe?"
Yeah.
Not wanting to sound, not wanting to sound all snobbish there, but it's like, can we have someone who knows exactly, what this brief's about, and not just someone who's kind of, fresh face and new to it all, and that's exactly what it's what it's like with the recruiters. Oh, that's actually all right. It's like, really? And when did just all right be the benchmark as well? When did
Yeah.
barely
That's true.
acceptable become like, oh, okay, it's all right for a robot? It's like, go away. Scary. Yeah. So I'm just tutting at the moment. I see, you know. Here's 374 ChatGPT prompts to supercharge your productivity, and I'm just like, go away, like, you absolute ghoul. No one needs this. No one needs 360 odd prompts, do they? You need to come up with a proper marketing strategy and write actual messaging full of empathy that speak to the target audience, not a load of prompts. Spend that. People must spend that much time reading prompts when they could actually just pick up the phone and speak to one of their target customers and go, "What are you
Yeah.
struggling with today? Oh, sound, yeah, all right, I'll write that." That's all it is to it. Not rocket science. And we've got a load of growth strategists, growth hacking gurus. It's just people will jump on any bandwagon. There's one guy who I take the piss out of some of his stuff, just cheesy it is on LinkedIn, and he changed his literally like ChatGPT was out in November, like the first week in December, his new headline on LinkedIn was ChatGPT expert / early adopter. It's like, it's been out a month. How are you an expert? It's just nuts. So that's the world we're living in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny.
Well, mate, it's been awesome, super interesting, and yeah, thanks so much for coming on. I think there's going to be a lot of people who benefit from this because you've given a lot of knowledge, and also I hope any copywriters who are worrying about ChatGPT, I don't think they will be now after you've gone through all that. So thanks for that. But can you just let everyone know like where to find your stuff on LinkedIn and your newsletter and everything else?
Yeah, so I'm shamelessly relentless on LinkedIn. I post probably once a day, so you can't really miss the stuff I do on there. So if you're connected, it's just my name, Dave Harland on LinkedIn. There's no special ways to find me really. I'll probably pop up. Although there is another Dave Harland, he's involved in the Eden project. He's like got a much more sensible job than me. I just write daft stories all day. So yeah, that's me on LinkedIn and Twitter. I'm at WordmanCopy. And you can get my newsletter at my website, which is thewordman.co.uk. So you can sign up there. And I put a newsletter out every Friday, which is a mixture of all my secrets, really. So copywriting tips, storytelling techniques, and a load of silly stuff. And I think it gets a little bit sweary at times as well. So if you're offended by swearing, maybe give it a wide berth.
Yeah, no, I'm a subscriber, and I've been following Dave for years, and highly recommend his newsletter as well. It's really funny. There's some really funny like when you like screenshot conversations with scammers and wind them up, and that they are really really hilarious. So highly recommend you checking it out. I'll stick all the links in the bio or the description or whatever wherever you're listening to this as well, so you can find it really easy. But yeah, Dave, thanks so much for coming on, mate. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, nice one, mate. I've enjoyed it. Cheers.
Cheers, mate.